Alright, let's do it. Welcome back to the WoW News, everybody. There's a lot to talk about today, both for the future of the game and right now, so let's get it started with patch 10.1.5 stuff. Okay, last week, I was a little bit worried. Dawn of the Infinite, the new mega dungeon, dropped 421 gear. Not really relevant to most of what I do, but good for my ults. And I guess I was just a bit concerned over difficulty, and some of that was reinforced when a few of the guys in our team absolutely wrecked it on PTR. Well, the good news is there are going to be hard modes for this dungeon, and in Mega Dungeon style, they're activated within the dungeon. I think like by, clicking in an hourglass or something. A bit of a throwback to Ulduar, which is the first time that WoW had properly codified hard modes, other than a few niche examples like Anchorage. Anyway, really good to see. Hopefully these don't shy away from actually being hard. And as for the dungeon itself, I know that the guys had an absolute blast on the PTR, even though they found it to be easy. Basically everybody said the dungeon goes really hard. It's crammed full of really cool stuff. There's a real fun, spicy looking gauntlet, but only one player needs to do the gauntlet, then they can be deactivated for the whole group. So, bodes well, and of course this is likely something we'll be getting in the next season as a piece of Mythic Plus content. Alright, new gear, more gear. Yeah, this is pretty crazy, and it's an example of Blizzard listening. So, do you want to get even more powerful? Soon you can with Myth gear. So right now, you know how, say, normal raid gear is champion, heroic raid gear is hero, but mythic gear is just mythic gear, it's not upgradable. Well, soon it will be, because myth gear starts dropping at eye level 441, and it upgrades to 447. That, of course, all uses aspect crests. And also it will drop from Mythic Plus 16 and beyond Great Vault. Now, your aspect crests, I think previously were a bit odd. They obviously were used for one upgrade and then crafted gear. So I suppose this does increase the value of, say, repeated Mythic Plus runs at 16 or your Mythic re-clears. And what is cool here is we're seeing Blizzard iterate on this mid-patch or mid-season. And that means that they're willing to actually try things out ahead of the next big version, which will be in 10.2, that, by the way, we currently expect to basically have a bunch of things moving from our bags into the currency tab, and stuff such as if you are capped on whatever resource your current difficulty of content gives you, it will give you the lower tier, so that you're basically never really wasting your time. And also, the very rare heroic gear will be dropping on the myth track as well, which I suppose means if you're a heroic raider and you do get Jarun, you'll really be able to pump that bad boy up. Okay, next then, new quantum gear. What is this? Well, it's odd. It's a new item from PTR called Quantum Cosmetics. These items grant appearances for weapons and armor, and we know basically not that much else. According to the flavor text, they grant you an appearance from the past. So what does that mean? I mean, is it unobtainable gear, like tier 3, or maybe challenge mode gear? Obviously, you've got the challenge mode sets from MOP, which were then recolored and used for the class order hull sets in Legion. There was the Warlords of Draenor challenge mode weapons, a few of which look really cool. Hard to know exactly, but I suppose this is some sort of decently random transmog token thing, probably past expansion gear. I mean, it's probably just a bit of spice on top of whatever you're doing. Likely this will come from maybe the Mega Dungeon, maybe the new Temporal Rifts, something like that. I mean, hell, I do have to wonder though if these are smart drops, because if they did just give you random past transmogs, someone could totally save these up and then kind of use them tactically when they've unlocked a bunch of the easy appearances, maybe to target some more rare things. Who knows? It would be pretty crazy if you could use one of those and get say the Mythic Argus Scythe. Alright, who knows, but seemingly neat. Next though, we've got something rather mysterious, and this has not happened to WoW in a while, and that is a new holiday. And it's not just a small micro holiday, no, this is a full fortnight long holiday called Secrets of Azeroth. It's going to take place between August 30th and September 15th, which I suppose is just after the Kalimdor Grand Prix. Here's what we know. The lands are crawling with secrets. Rarities hidden, treasures stolen, clues discovered. Who is behind it all? Seek the preservation lists and help them find out. That's the official description from what we can glean so far. It seems that these preservationists are a new faction, and it's based on Azeroth's secrets. I'm imagining folklore, urban myths, lingering lore questions perhaps. There's an achievement called Whodunit, which gives you Patty, which is this alpaca mount. Now, the achievement being called Whodunit is obviously referencing like part of it's, well, basically a murder mystery subgenre. So perhaps, I don't know, there's a murder mystery? Is Poirot going to be there? Probably not. I suppose you could go quite Giga Brain, tie it into maybe the ethereal mystery that's slowly been building. Obviously, the Shadow Forged coin was put into our adventure journals at the start of this expansion, but that doesn't really seem like an aesthetic fit. Anyway, there are two other data mine achievements. One's called Community Rumors, another one is called Community Rumor Mill, and these are both for finding buried satchels by decoding rumors. So I almost wonder, in the same way, you have an ARG that takes place in real life, is it going to be a bit like that in-game? Essentially, I think especially before the Shadowlands, Blizzard put a lot of effort into mysteries, secret content, right? Things like the little goat mount, or the little goat pet. You've got Nightmare, which is this mount that involves a whole big secret thing and then a special type of content. And they haven't really done so much of that lately from what I can tell. Anyhow, I think this is really good to see though, because much like other holidays, this is going to stand to WoW permanently, right? It'll happen every single year. And that is good, because it builds the game up in a way that transient patch content cannot. Okay, I want to summarize then some UI updates. Number 1, do you hate spam? Yes, we all do. And the good news is Blizzard are tackling in-game calendar spam that is widely being used to promote boosting services. We've begged for this for a while, now it's going to be happening. Players will be able to restrict who can send them calendar invites. So basically, opt out of the trade services channel and restrict your calendar, I suppose, to like friends list or your guild, and you should be unspammed. You won't have to hear about annoying boosting services. And to top off some of the UI updates, they've added a sell all junk button to vendors, which is nice. Yes, our add-ons handle it, but add-ons handling it doesn't mean that they shouldn't bother putting it into the default game. There are a few other nice things. As an example, we've got some colors being added to the micro menu. If you want to hear more, hit up our 10.1.5 new features video that just went up. Scales. So, look at these infinite dragon scales, they're pretty sweet. We actually now know that they come from the new Mega Dungeon. But also, we've got these Proto-Drake skins that are based off the original forms of the first dragon aspect. So, Alexstrasza, Malagos, etc. We've no idea how you get them, but, they've been data mined to the 10.1.5 game file, so I'm going to assume it's from there. So then, Aberrus nerfs, they've happened, but they're actually targeted at smaller raid sizes. It turns out the game is a fair bit easier the more people you have, and that is certainly something my guild noticed the 2 nights where a bunch of us couldn't make it to raid. They were just saying, yeah, bosses like Skarn, they just felt harder at 10 players versus our usual 15. So, we've seen a whole bunch of nerfs that are primarily targeted at smaller raid sizes. But what is different is Sarkareth. Blizzard have done a sly nerf, so loads of Sarkareth stuff is nerfed by like 50% at 10 player. But that nerf scales as the group size increases to the point where a 30 player group would experience Sarkareth's current sort of pre-nerf tuning. So this is very much presented to us by Blizzard as the tuning being consistent in terms of raid size, right? They're saying whether you're 30 players or 10 players, it'll be about as hard. But of course, for most of us who are probably not raiding with 30 players, this should be quite the nerf. We certainly experienced this. After our last raid night, or during that, we re-cleared normal to get tier tokens, we re-cleared heroic, and we had half an hour left for Sarkareth heroic. We were completely delirious. We had been talking shit. We all felt completely unhinged, right? To the point where, you almost feel drunk, you've been laughing so much. And on our first attempt, we got Sarkareth down to 34% in heroic, pretty much without thinking, which sure does mean that this is shaping up to be a good bit easier than Raszageth was. Content then. Do you want to rather awkwardly deal with how the dragons have kind of got a strange sort of subservient class of lesser creatures that exist to do their bidding? It's a bit, the world building's a bit weird and they don't really engage with it, do they? But it's called a rebel or a cosmetic rebel or rebel, call something like that. And yeah, you can do it in game. If you do it, you get the title of Reconciler. And it is a bit odd because it's like, it's weird, right? This is clearly part of Blizzard's narrative and content strategy where they're just drip feeding out this content. But it's odd. I mean, let's be kind of real. How did you find out about the Blue Dragon quest line? Because it's the single best bit of questing content that the game has had in such a long time. Now, did you find out about it in-game because you were playing WoW, or on Wowhead because you checked Wowhead, or someone you know checked Wowhead, or maybe watched a YouTube video? And I think the same goes with the tier quest line that dropped last week. Oh yeah, by the way, did you know about the tier quest that dropped last week? Drop a comment, just yes or no down below. If either like, right now you just found out about it, or in last week's episode of the WoW News you found out about it, or you used Wowhead. Like, did you find out about that naturally in-game, or was it an external source? Because I think Blizzard are kind of drip feeding this stuff out, but they're not really doing the best job of letting people know it exists in-game. Like, they're not campaign chapters. It's not really structured in a way where it seems like it just fits nicely with the game. I guess I've just got a suspicion that if all of this stuff was available within the first 1 to 2 weeks, that people would log in and maybe they played the narrative for like 6 hours in day one, like they maybe do in Final Fantasy 14, and they think, oh, that was a really good story. I sat down and I played this like a good old video game campaign, and then they just stop and be like, all right, cool. I had a nice time. I leave WoW, happy feeling. Versus right now, where day one of a patch is a pretty damn sparse experience, and I think it's one that leaves a lot of people kind of wanting more and being a bit disappointed. And then that means they'll wander away from the game, so by the time the blue quest comes out, the tier quest comes out, or this quest comes out, they're not paying attention to WoW anymore. And even if they come back next expansion or next patch, probably will never know it existed, and they'll be totally lost. So, to me, it feels like they're trying to stretch this out more, or maybe they're trying to make the game feel more like alive and buzzing, but I've just got to worry that they're maybe not using their content well. Like, if this stuff was overtly episodic and people knew to check in for the next thing every week, then maybe that would work. Certainly a lot of people would talk about time gating, but yeah, you get what I mean? Does it feel a bit weird to you? I mean, finishing the Blue Dragon quest line wouldn't make you think that like 2 weeks later a tier quest line would come out. You'd have no real reason to know unless you followed Wowhead. Now, don't get me wrong, that we're getting all this content is great, but my worry is that only a tiny percentage of active players even know to do this stuff. Let me know if I'm talking shit, and let's round it off with a few other things. Right now, it's Dungeon Week, so doing 4 Mythic or Mythic Plus dungeons gets you a piece of heroic raid gear. Also, LFR Wing 3 is out, which lets you, of course, get your tier head and some nice Neltharion drops like Ash Candor, the class trinket, and tier shoulders. The Revival Catalyst then drops next week, which just about means, anyway, that just about anyone who's 3 out of 4 on their tier right now can soon be 4 out of 4. And if you've got any Season 1 pieces, remember that you should be able to convert those into the last, set, the tier set, for free at the Catalyst. Don't use up your charges. That's really nice if you want to go and just sort out some of your transmogs. Now, one confusing thing did happen though, and that is that the Catalyst quest appeared at the start of this week for a very short period of time, and then it disappeared. Nobody got a charge, and the Season 1 tier thing didn't work. So it seems like a bug just made it sort of look available, but then it was squashed pretty quick. All right, that is it for the WoW News. It's not been the most popping off crazy week, but I do think they're getting a new in-game holiday, them iterating on the game's gearing system, and, that we can look forward to these hard modes in the new dungeon. I think that is exciting stuff, especially now that, at least per what a few of the guys on my team anyway, definitely people I trust. Like, if Matt says that something goes hard, certainly if you watch our live show that we do on Fridays, you'll know that he doesn't dish out praise lightly. So if he's saying that the dungeon's really cool, then to me that just means, right, I won't touch it in PTR, I want to leave that shit for when it's real. One thing, of course, that you should have in your horizon is that quite shortly, I believe it's like the 21st or 22nd. Editor note will solve this problem on the screen. The Diablo event will end, but then the 50% XP boost will kick off. I suppose my plan then is to use that XP boost ideally timed in, because I think the XP boost is available at the same time that Mop Time Walking is. So you'll be able to smash those Mop Time Walking dungeons, get a fucking metric shit ton of experience. Zoom your characters up. So for me, if I've got a new paladin, I want to, sort of learn up some tanking or something like that, well, being able to do that in the new Mega Dungeon seems like a really good way to hop into this patch. So, that's what's up, I suppose. I hope you enjoyed today's video. If you want to support our team, well, we've got multiple episodes of the Lore Walking podcast that are available right now. New episodes, I think we actually published, we're pretty much at one a week now, which is sweet. So there's like 4 or 5 hours of relatively new, sort of pretty damn high quality podcast content out there. Behind the scenes from me, I'm doing weekly vlogs now. Of course, all of our delicious loot, includes a pin, all very awesome. That's over on the Patreon if you want to support what we're doing. Okay, that's it from me. Have a wonderful day. I'll see you next time.